circumstances, situations, and events, perfectly designed to place before you the stage upon which you can build your next grandest experience of the greatest idea you ever held about who you truly are. That is, your next most extraordinary idea of what divinity really is. And when we recontextualize our life in that way and use our life for that purpose, all this stuff over here rains down upon us like snowflakes. They just fall without us having to reach for them. And I'll conclude my little mini speech here. I didn't mean to give a lecture, but this is something that I'm so passionate about in these last days of my life, these last years, to be able to share with as many people as possible that since I have changed my life and gone after this stuff over here, and I haven't attained it, I'm not saying for a minute that I've achieved that, but that's been my goal, that's been my mission, that's been my objective over here. Since I've made this my objective and gotten there once in a while and achieved it every so often, these things over here have in fact rained down upon me. I'm living the perfect life. I've got the perfect relationship with a wonderful, wonderful woman in my life. I make all the income I could possibly ever have imagined that I might make. My life work provides me with such fulfillment that I can't believe it. I live in a beautiful home on a beautiful hill. I drive a nice little Prius, with which I'm perfectly happy. There's a plug for the Prius people over at Toyota. And everything I even have a great dog. I mean, everything in my life really is exactly the way I would have had it when I was trying to put those building blocks into place one at a time. I don't have to put those building blocks into place one at a time. They're automatically placed there for me by life when I pay attention to this over here. I'm done.
Yeah, and what you're saying is so important, Neale, because I don't think we can ever figure it out. Like Einstein said, we're never going to come up with the solutions from the same level that created the problems.
Hello.
Yeah, I think we do have to reach beyond the language, beyond the thought processes, to go into that moment of presence. You know, I really liked watching you were interviewing with Eckhart Tolle, and you had some personal honesty there that really hit me strong, and I want to thank you for it, because it allowed me to see some of my stuff, you know, and just constantly catch myself, like right now, pulling myself into presence. So I'm not interviewing an author. I'm being to being. I'm being here right now with you. And from this presence and this moment comes exactly what needs to be said.
That's how it works. That's my understanding of exactly how it works. It's all going on right here, right now. I loved the time I spent with Eckhart. He's a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
Very sweet man.
Yep.
And he's fun to be around. Fun to call friend. Fun to be around.
Yeah, I bet. Yep.
But yeah, that's what and not only being totally present in this moment, not only getting that it is really about the power of now and being totally present in this moment, excuse me, but by coming, at least in my case, for me, by coming to a place of great clarity about what this moment was designed to allow me to express and to experience. So it's about not only being present, but being aware of the opportunity that this moment, in its unique presentation, the way it's coming at me right now, the lights, the sounds, the temperature in the room, the people who walk by, everything that's going on, the entire event has been designed through me, for me, by me, in collaboration with all the other souls involved, including those who are watching this. This entire experience has been collaboratively created to present the right and perfect circumstance, allowing me to experience the aspect of divinity that my soul is choosing to call forth now. Once again, to repeat myself, when I pay attention to that and use my presence in this moment for that purpose, all the other stuff that I was reaching for, striving for, searching for, yearning for, come to me automatically. It's an amazing thing.
Sounds like it's the only thing that matters.
It is, in fact, and that is why I wrote that book. And Thank you for that lead in because, I sat down and I realized a few months ago when I began writing that book, you know, I have one final thing I want to say. There will be probably other books that I'll write. It'll be spin-off books or further explanations of things. But there's only one more new thing that I want to say. And that is, what is the only thing that matters? I found myself going around talking about that when I was visiting people, when I was doing lectures around the place and so forth. I found myself saying, for all that's been written, not only by me in the Conversations with God books, but all the other teachers, all the other authors, throughout human history for that matter. We're not talking about a small number of books or a small chunk of literature. We're talking about an enormous amount of literature here. And for all that's been written and all that's been said, here we are still in the year 2012, unable, as I mentioned a minute ago, to produce the outcome for which we say we all yearn, and to produce that outcome for the largest number of us. That's incomprehensible to me, how it would be possible, unless there's something we don't know here, we don't fully understand. And that's why I wrote The Only Thing That Matters, because I said, okay, that really is the only thing that matters. Everything else is irrelevant.
Well, it seems like we have so many of our basic precepts wrong. And there's one of the things you said in the book was about our basic instinct being that of survival, but it's really not that. It's something else.
That's right.
We've had this stuff embedded into us to the point to where we start believing it and making decisions based upon untrue statements. So how could it possibly lead us to a better place? Because then if we're fighting for survival, we're coming from a place of individuality and defense and offense, aggression, and this bleeds over into nationalism and wars and everything else that we're experiencing. So what do you think our basic instinct is?
Well, you're perfectly correct in assessing that it is not survival, and you're perfectly correct in assessing that humanity has been told that our basic instinct is survival from the beginning of time. So we think we are supposed to follow the so-called survival instinct. But when we step into our understanding of and our highest clarity around the truth of life, which is that it never ends, and that we cannot die if we tried to. We will exist forever and forever, even forevermore. When we understand that, then we go, oh, well, now wait a minute. If that's true, then survival is not the question. That's not the issue. The issue, if we live forever and even forevermore, the issue is what are we doing with the forevermore? That we see then that this particular incarnation is not the only experience of life we're going to have, or that we have had up till now. We begin to change our perspective on the whole of the life experience itself. And we begin to say, okay, then survival is not the basic instinct, then what is? And God said to me, the basic instinct of humanity is the expression of divinity. And let me give you a striking example of that to prove the point. Because people might say, oh, Neale, the basic instinct of humanity is the expression of divinity. Give me a break. That's not like Archie Bunker. Edith stifle it. I mean, give me a break. Because it sounds so squishy soft. It's right. The basic instinct of humanity is the expression of divinity. Wow. But in fact, it's true, and I've got proof of it. A man is walking down the street. He looks up at a building that suddenly bursts into flames. There's been an oven explosion or some kind of explosion in the house. The house is suddenly on fire just that fast. He hears somebody crying, help, help. Some mother is holding her baby out the window on the second floor. Please help, catch my child, save us. Now, if that man's basic instinct was survival, the last thing he would do is run into that house. Believe it. That's the last thing that survival would call upon him to do. But in fact, he runs into the house, through the flames, right, up the stairs, to the second floor, and helps those people out, throws his coat over them so they are not impacted by the smoke and flame as much, gets them outside, saves their life, may even trip and fall as he pushes them through the front door and die himself, for all we know, in the flames. Or he may escape as well with them. But his fundamental instinct, his first impulse, is to get in there and save that life. That's what divinity would do.
Right.
You know, there was a guy in New York City, I'm sure you know the story, a few years ago, who in fact faced a situation similar to that, where he was standing on a platform at the subway station in New York with many other people. There were several hundred people waiting for the subway train to come in, and a little girl fell off the platform. And she fell, you know, just a short fall, 2.5, 3 feet. She wasn't hurt by the fall so much, but she fell onto the train and, of course, onto the tracks, and she couldn't get back up because it was just too high for her to reach. Her mother didn't know what to do. The guy just jumped down because they began to hear the train coming. They could hear the train right around the bend, and they were, oh my God, save her! He jumped down, pushed her down in the hollow underneath the two tracks, the two rails, put his body on top of hers, got down as far as he could, knowing that when that train came in, it was just seconds that it was going to happen, that when that train came over them, he was probably going to die. But with any luck, she would not. As it happened, he did not die either. The train came to a screeching halt on the other side of them. He just had some light injuries onto his back and the top of his head, but he survived. He pulled her out of that muddy ditch, but she was none the worse for the wear. What person, if their basic instinct was survival, would put themselves in harm's way like that? But if your basic instinct is divinity, you're no longer concerned with your own survival. And that's the difference.
And this brings up a really good point, Neale, because the person that did that, the person that rushed into the fire, that person could have also been a person that went and joined the armed forces, went overseas, and was part of a group of people that killed lots of people. But I think if we act out of impulse, not out of nationalism or religious beliefs or well thought out plans, I think our first impulse is a divine impulse. But our ego gets involved and we start thinking, and we can actually do things. That same individual can do things that he would turn right around and do the opposite if it's a divine impulse. And this brings up the fact, what is that? What is that gets in the way of our divinity? And I think it's our personality, our ego personality, our constructs that gets out there and gets really defensive and aggressive, trying to survive and protect itself.
Well, of course, it's the mind's job to make sure you survive long enough to accomplish the agenda of your soul. So the mind's only function, when all is said and done, at the end of the day, is to feed you data that allows your body to respond in such a way that you survive. And that's the mind's only function. We might think the mind has other functions, but the mind has a simple function. Gather all the data you can get, file it according to category, call it forward instantly in the moment that any new event occurs, analyze the new event against the data you've already filed away, and then tell the body what to do in order to stay alive. Really quite simple. And not only to stay alive physically, but also how to stay alive mentally. That is, how to save yourself from whatever psychological or philosophical danger there may be in the space. That is, what is the best thing to say right now so this person doesn't become angry? It's all the same thing. It's about survival. So the mind's job is to feed you data that will allow you to make the right decision according to its measurement of what is right, so that you can do the thing called survive. If survival is not the issue, if that's taken off the table, the decisions you would reach, just as you pointed out, would be entirely different in some cases. Entirely different. Probably in many cases.
So what do we do to, in a Heinleinian sense, grok what you are saying